Hey guys, this is Kerbal with Tape, and today you join me for episode 18 of Solar Civilization. And today we start with another launch for the Eve craft, or the Eve Explorer. It's kind of unnamed right now. Maybe I'll think of a name for it, or maybe someone else will. But either way, maybe I'll just leave it as Eve Explorer. But yeah, this is the core or the crew module. Yeah, pretty important, taking the guys out there, which will also be where the probes are attached, and you'll see one of them in this episode. Yeah, this is again the reusable rocket, much like SpaceX is trying to achieve, which is actually, that's launching today. I'm not sure if this will be uploaded in time, probably, but only like a couple of hours, because right now it's going to be, SpaceX thing is going to be launched in about 4 hours, so you probably would have missed that by the time you're watching this, or maybe you saw it before you watch this. But anyway, the bottom stage is away. Now we'll just push this into orbit and hopefully get back in time to the main stage to land it on land, or maybe ocean, if I can manage to achieve that. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, we're coming in pretty close to Eve Explorer. I can't switch that while in atmosphere, so I decide to just go straight for not doing that, push myself into orbit, and then switch back to it. And I'm going to try landing it on water because it's more important that this gets into orbit than that lands. But anyway, that is in orbit now, and now we can join this. And I did capture it in time, and it's burning up. I'm igniting my engines to slow myself down a little. I've shut down 2 of them so it doesn't burn up all my fuel too quickly. We get all parachutes good deploy. That's one of the first times that's happened. And the engines are going, and I will slow it down for the final bits of the descent. There you go, I believe that's slowed down, and on water, perfect landing. It stays balanced, it doesn't fall over at all, so awesome. Let's recover it before it falls over. But anyway, that was cool, so now I can reuse stuff that lands on water if I try really hard. Yeah, so let's just kind of move in on the Eve Explorer lab. Yeah, you can see this is obviously the crew capsule with the return module on the back of it, and that weird looking thing on the front is where I will be attaching the probes. I should have used infernal robotics in this series, so I could have done kind of like a pulling mechanism for this craft, so it would be just easier to attach stuff. That's what I did by myself with all my... I have this save which is like ridiculously modded. I put basically everything on it, but other than like rescale Kerbal, but I don't do a series on that. But anyway, let's extend the panels, get a little power. I may need to retract them for when I put probes on, or maybe I'll just move them with the couple attachment system. But anyway, here we go. We're at the Eve Explorer. We just need to slow down. This is still sped up, but it will slow down for the docking because I like to look at how graceful it is. And we have onboard RCS to do the final maneuvering, and we'll let that transfer stage drift away. But anyway, let's just move in quite nicely and try not to bump it into an odd orbit or something. But anyway, here we go. Let's just... There you go, now it's slowed down for the docking. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, that SpaceX launch I just mentioned, I think that's the orbital communication satellite, or Orbcom, so that's pretty cool. But anyway, we're docked on now, and it's starting to look more like a spaceship. We do need a few more things, including the drive section. But first we need to put the monopropellant from the temporary tank into the main tank. We won't be taking that huge tank out to Eve, but it's nice to have it here now. But anyway, we've got a Space Shuttle Mark 1.1 launch. I believe this is the Neptune shuttle, which was launched last episode, or maybe an episode before that. I do tend to launch them a lot. But yeah, this is taking one of the probes because, it's 7 days between rocket launches, so I can get another shuttle launch in between that because it has a different launch site, and in between that I can get plane takeoffs. But it just means I can have more options, and it's not a particularly heavy payload, so this will do fine. I believe this can lift about 5-ish tons. I'm just going to turn my fan off real quick. I've just realised that might be really loud. God, I hope it hasn't flowed into the audio, or... Oh, God, I don't want to have to do this commentary again. But anyway, this is getting into orbit. This lifts about 5-ish tons, and I do have an upgraded one, which I'll be transferring this over to at some point when I've got all the parts. Because I've developed an upgraded one in a different save, doing different things where I'm slightly further along in the tech tree. And, yeah, so it's slightly lighter and can obviously get more to orbit because the orbiter vehicle is lighter, so you can put more in the cargo bay. which is awesome. But anyway, we're coming up to the Eve Explorer now, and we'll just burn into orbit before we ditch this stage. I did actually try with my advanced shuttle in my other save. This like descent from a really high orbit is well, no, only about 500 kilometers, but it was pretty cool. But anyway, let's ditch that and go over, move over to the orbiter's internal power to do the tricky maneuvering into where we need to be. We're kind of pointing in the wrong direction, but we're getting a pretty close approach. I use kind of a lot of RCS, probably too much, but I have tons on here, so I can just so I can use loads to do my maneuvering, because I'm never very elegant doing my close approaches. I just kind of burn at the target, and then my dockings are always really graceful after like insane amount of burning. But anyway, I turn the ambient light up a little more so you get a nice view of the shuttle, because it does look really nice, I think. Yeah, this is the 1.1, as I said, the Neptune shuttle, which has air brakes on it, has a widened wheel bay, has an abort system, I believe. It hasn't. I haven't rebalanced the RCS, but I'll build another one at some point, just a slightly upgraded one, with maybe a better SES unit, better RCS, just better. I like to incrementally upgrade these, kind of like the real shuttle. Like when Columbia burned up, they built Challenger, I believe, came after that, and when that broke. Well, exploded more than broke. They built Atlantis and so on and so forth. But anyway, we need to transfer the monopropellant into the lander, which is the Gilly lander, because that was accidentally used during maneuvering. But anyway, this will be landing on Gilly. It has very little fuel and a tiny engine, but Gilly is basically a pretty big asteroid, so you could land on it with RCS. I believe that's what Scott Manley did. But I thought it would be cool to use ant engines, because I really like ant engines for some reason, but I never get to use them because they're inefficient, but whatever. Oh, and I got a temperature scan there. I've never done any temperature scans in Kerbal Orbit, which is dumb. I always forget Kerbal in Orbit to do additional science in when I unlock new equipment. But whatever. We'll just move in on our target now. That was a little aggressive. I'm sure the people, the Kerbals in the command pod are getting very worried. And I think I slow this down for the docking again, because that's my kind of thing. Yeah, it looks pretty slowed down. Oh, speakers are going nuts. Interference. I've really got to start turning those off more. But anyway, that's docked on, and I'll put the monopropellant back into the lander can. I tend to just use internal RCS because most of the lander cans or the command modules have enough RCS for what I need. So I don't bother strapping on tanks, but occasionally I do. So But anyway, I actually need to get that temperature report from the lander, so I'll get one of the pilots in Shuttle to get it at some point after I've checked for other solar panels. But I don't have any on this. But there are some more solar panels on the drive section, so I can retract the ones on the pod so I can get more probes on there. But anyway, we need to get one of our brave astronauts out, well, Kerbonauts, out of the shuttle, and we'll get Robdas or Rodbass or one of them. I don't know. Whatever his derpy name is. If your name is Rob Das, I'm very sorry. But anyway, we'll traverse the gulf of nothing in between the Eve Explorer and the shuttle to grab that 8 science. But all science helps. And I want to be moving along with more with science, because I realise I haven't done a huge amount of science as of late. And I haven't moved along a lot of things. Like I had ideas for making fighters. I want to do lots more cool stuff, because I feel like I've just been kind of working a lot on disposable missions to like planets, and they're cool, but when my next Joule window comes around, this is a promise, if I'm still doing the series when my next Joule window comes around, I'm going to send a base, because I haven't sent any probes to Joule, so that would be very illogical, but screw it, I know enough. Anyway, let's get Robdas back in the shuttle. I almost called it the cuttlefish. Oh my god, I have to make a spacecraft called the cuttlefish. That would be terrible. But yeah, let's go back to KSC. I believe in the last episode I landed pretty well, but I don't fully remember. It was about a week ago. I've started doing these weekly as opposed to at one point I was doing them basically every day, and then kind of twice weekly. I don't know. I just do them when I feel like doing them, because then it's fun and interesting. And I've got the rescale Kerbin thing running. I like running 2 series. It makes me feel like I'm doing more stuff. Anyway, let's orientate this in the right direction and deorbit. We'll be landing in the night, but you'll be able to see it because, well, because ambient light boosting mod, and I'll be able to land because I've landed this shuttle a ridiculous amount of times off camera and quite a few times on camera actually. And I've gotten pretty good at bullseyeing the runway, and it's really easy to bullseye the runway when you have air brakes because you have so much kind of control over your velocity. I do really like the surface-mounted air brakes. I think they're a little bit cheaty. I'm not really sure if they're overpowered or whatever. Um, but I do really like them. They just make it so much easier to, because it's quite a difficult thing actually to, you know, especially with Ferrum Aerospace, to like brake just by flaring, and it's just too much to think about. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna return this, and I think when it starts burning up, I'm gonna put it back to a 1x time accelerate because I want you to get a kind of idea of what returning the shuttle's actually like. I mean, it's kind of, you've got to actually kind of, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. I mean, this is still accelerated, but when it starts burning up and getting interesting, then I'll, you know, show it more because it is an interesting thing. I mean, yeah, I think we're back into 1x time accelerate now. Just realised the frame rates weren't brilliant actually, but yeah, it takes quite a while actually to get down to the ground. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of maintaining attitude control, and you've got to decide exactly what you want to do. Really, I mean, you've got to know exactly where you need to be going because I mean, there's you know, problems with gliding, and if you're going to undershoot, you want to glide, and if you're going to overshoot, you want to basically just having more drag than glide or lift even, so that you get back in the right place. But I tend to try to overshoot a little bit and then just brake really hard with the air brakes because it's just easier. And it's better to have more energy, too much energy than too little energy. Because if you have too little energy, then you fall short and probably hit a mountain in this case, or do what the first shuttle did on this on Solar Civilization and crash in some fields, and scare some cows. Kind of like whenever you watch the SpaceX reusable rocket tests where they launch Grasshopper or the Falcon 9 reusable, there's just always cows running around. It's funny. Yeah, and they did another one of those kind of jumps with the rocket, and they had these awesome little fins that would you kind of aerodynamically change the direction of the rocket, so they didn't have to use as much fuel. And I think that's a really cool idea. They're just doing so much for the future of space. And NASA, actually, a lot of people kind of, well, a lot of people, it's a kind of a niche conversation group, but a lot of people seem to think that NASA aren't doing anything. I was talking to someone today, and they said, "Wait, aren't NASA bankrupt?" And it's like, no, they just don't have Shuttle, but they're working on Orion. And there was a press conference about Orion recently, and they're going to be doing the first test flight of Orion later this year. No humans on board, but then they're going to do an abort test of that. And then a manned flight fairly soon. And then, you know, NASA are doing a lot of things. I mean, it's not... One of the things Charlie Bolden, who's the administrator of NASA, said is it's really easy to keep the people working on it interested, because, I mean, they're working on amazing things that will, you know, just change the future of humanity, but it's really hard to keep the public interested. I think, actually, Kerbal Space Program's a really good way to do that, because I think it's a good educational tool, because before I started playing, I knew pretty much nothing about orbital mechanics. I knew enough about like orbits and stuff to understand basic theories and stuff, and I knew a little bit about space travel and space in general, but I knew so little about like orbital mechanics, orbital maneuvering. I had no idea, but you know, it is an incredible educational tool, and you know, I really think they should use it in schools because, like, I think it's Peter Thiel who says, what is it? Education should be as much like video games as possible, because you never have to tell a kid to play video games; they'll just play video games. And so if you can make education like that, you know. Anyway, I've been just talking about stuff, but I like to be informative, and this has just been kind of gliding through Max G. But yeah, right now I'm coming over the continent, and I have overshot a little bit, so I've raised the air brakes and just kind of begun to slow down and really trying to bleed off velocity before I cross those mountains. Those are kind of the threshold for where I need to be going quite slow, and I am going too fast at this point. Actually, I did overshoot, But the air brakes are a massive tool. It's just really good. They have, I think they do have too much. I think it is overpowered, but maybe they're not. I'm not an expert on air brakes. That'd be a really fun thing to be an expert on. But you know, aerodynamics, I guess. But yeah, it's still burning up. It does burn up for a very long time. There's a lot of fire while re-entering in Shuttle, but the fire's not actually like the fire. The heating effects right now aren't actually that intense. Like in the first few, I think the first kind of minute or so of re-entry, the heating effects are pretty bad, and I have lost bits of Shuttle before, like just like the odd battery or solar panel and things, and I think once even an air brake, which meant landing was damn difficult. But you know, it after a while it's just kind of harmless orange. But anyway, we're coming in a little to the, I want to say, west of the run. Nope, a little to the south of the runway. So we need to, you know, just turn a little bit and line ourselves up. And now we're we're into the thick atmosphere, really bleeding off velocity. We've got a good thing going. I'm picking up some Mach effects because we are going really fast. The frame rates have improved, actually. I don't know, for some reason recently I've been getting terrible frame rates. I mean, my computer hasn't got worse, and the game hasn't got harder. I guess maybe it's all, I reckon it's all the mods, because this is very few stock parts, especially with rescaled Kerbin, and I've just, my Interstellar save with all the ridiculous amount of mods has just been awful for just crashing and frame rates. It's not been great. I'm thinking I've got to do more stock stuff. I'm thinking I've got to do more Operation Black Hawk, because I started that and it was really cool and people watched it and people liked it, and then I was like, eh. But I reckon I will at some point. But it's a lot of work, and I mean, I've been doing exams recently, and the annoying thing is I finished my exams and then I had one day off, then a weekend. We had an after exams party, that was crazy. And then I'm back at school for 5 weeks, 5 freaking weeks of actual A2s. Not like, oh, it's just a joke. I have to work. I don't like working. Working is hard. I like doing nothing. Anyway, I just finished my rant about my nothingness. But now we are almost below Mach 1 and aligned with the runway. I forgot what I was talking about before I started just complaining about school. Oh yeah, Operation Black Hawk. At some point I will do something, but I think I will just bring it back with like an unbelievably huge battle. Maybe I'll put a Death Star in there, or a Borg cube. I don't know, it will be awesome. But yeah, I think that's what it's gonna be. But anyway, we're coming in pretty close to the runway now. We're about 27 kilometers out, and I'm noticing a lot more debris on the runway than there should be. That's actually the launch clamps, because I haven't taken them away, so I am going to have to dodge them. Usually I just come in a little later on the runway, but I can tell you now that it gets a little hazy. This landing is actually better than a few I've done. This was first try. Sometimes I do quick load on my landings, because you can now quick save in the atmosphere. I don't think I've ever quick loaded on a landing on this though, because most of my shuttles break, and the last one was actually a pretty good landing, I believe, if my memory serves me right. But anyway, this one is it gets a little hazy, little hazy. But anyway, we're coming down, you know, pretty close to the runway. I tend to try to come down really low and come in flat, and now I've elevated the air brakes just to bleed off a little velocity, because I don't want to be coming in too fast, but again, I don't want to be coming in too slow, and I definitely don't want to be coming in too vertically. Tends to be when I'm about to land, I just kind of have my hand feathering above the abort button just to parachute these guys out. But this one actually went pretty well. It was pretty stable. I'm 10 kilometers out. Everything's looking really good. Everything is nominal. And I didn't declutter down. I might start doing that on landing, where you press, where you get rid of all the UI and you can just straight up land, like with the real Shuttle. They'd kind of declutter down, drop all the stuff so they could land. And that was kind of cool. God, this has actually been like the majority of the video just flying this back. But as I say, I did want to, if you're still here, then wow. But I did just kind of want to have an idea of what it actually looks like to land one of these. And, you know, I try to fill it in with not just talking about this, or it will be super boring. But yeah, anyway, we're coming in 3 kilometers out from the debris, or the start of the runway. We're really not going to want to hit that, but the shuttle was thinking, nah, I want to challenge you, Peter. I want to see what you can really do. So I actually come down pretty close to it. Although, looking at it now, it doesn't look like I do. Oh, I think it was the braking here. Yeah, I'm basically bullseyed onto hitting those launch clamps. And then I'm like, oh god, no, don't do it, Shuttle. And you just pull up and glide right on by him. Really close with the shuttle. That was great. But anyway, that went quite nicely. And now we just need to bleed off a little more velocity. Don't even... Oh, it did feather the air brakes, actually. But we touched down, everything looks good, and we just kind of feather the brakes, try to slow down gently and not smash anything up. And that's pretty good. The lights... I do like the lights on the runway. And you can see everything, because ambient light booster, I talk about that a lot. Anyway, but that is that, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. There will be lots of... there's some awesome stuff in next episode. You'll have to watch it. And it will be awesome. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.